Alright, so my 94 Cobra recently developed an issue where this is called the multifunction switch. It controls your turn signals, your windshield wipers, your bright lights, and it even is a part of the hazard light switch is all built into this one thing, and it's all located under the plastic trim here. But anyway, when I would try to use my windshield wipers, if you pushed in for the washer fluid, nothing happens. It doesn't turn on. And then when you try to use the first couple intermittent settings, the wipers didn't work either. If I rotated them all the way on, they would work. So diagnosed it as a switch being bad. Unfortunately, switch being bad means you have to replace the whole thing. So not too big of a deal. You can get them really cheap. I'll leave you a link where I got mine. I only paid $18 for the whole assembly. So today I'm going to be showing you how to change this out. Alright, so the easiest way to go about this is to remove a few things to give you a little more clearance. So we're going to want to remove this plastic panel underneath the steering column here, and then the metal crash plate that's below there. And getting that out of the way will allow us to drop down this piece here. So we'll use an 8mm socket, and there's a couple bolts down underneath that we'll take out, and then this just pries off. Alright, so you can see underneath we have a little crash panel here. To get that off, you have a couple more bolts that need to come out. Right here, right here. Alright, so the next thing to do is there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bolt or screws in their Phillips head that need to come out from the bottom of the steering column. So go ahead and get a Phillips head in there, and take them out, and it will we'll be able to separate the top from the bottom. Alright, so once you get the 4 screws out of the bottom, the lever to adjust the height of the steering wheel, which is right here, you'll need to unscrew it. And if you turn it to the left with like a pair of pliers carefully, you'll be able to loosen it up. Loosen it with the wrench, then you can turn it out the rest of the way by hand. And once it's out of the way, the bottom piece just simply drops off. Alright, once the bottom piece is dropped off, just work the top piece up a little bit here, out of the way. And then you'll see there is, I believe it's T20, there's a screw up here on the top of the turn signal switch. And if you look down here on the bottom, there's another one right there. If we go ahead and take those out, the whole turn signal switch will become loose, and we should be able to fish it out without pulling this top piece of trim off. And once we get it out here a little bit, we'll be able to pull the wiring clips off the back. And you have to be careful. You'll see there's multiple connectors. They all have these like gray plastic tabs that you'll break very easily if you pry too hard on them. So, especially if it's an older car. Right, so now this whole switch is loose. You're going to need both hands, so if we get it kind of loose here, we'll be able to reach around, and now we can start unplugging all of the wiring connections. And then it's just as easy with the old one, you know, plug them back in, push the switch back into place, and I'll show you here in a second. You have to make sure your wires are tucked behind the little plastic tab that comes down where the screw goes through. Otherwise it could pinch off the wires. So you can pull it down below the steering wheel to get a little more room to get these clips. You're going to be really careful, especially if they've been on here a long time, because they're plastic, and there's one on each side. So if you work that up on one side, work on the other side. It almost helps to have two people, because you need like 4 hands to do this correctly. So here's the old switch. We finally got it removed. Factory part number. Alright, here's the new part. Kind of compare them, make sure everything lines up. This is just a few slight differences. Overall it's the same. This is an aftermarket non-Ford part, which normally I wouldn't recommend, but the price difference was so significant that I thought I'd give it a shot. And this is a car, after all, that I don't really drive ever, so we'll see how this one works. Had good reviews. So you just replug in your connections, and then we'll kind of work this up into place and put our screws back in. Like I said, you have to have, I'll show you here, your wiring harness tucked behind the plastic here. I would recommend before you put it back up into place to try everything. So turn on your hazard lights and have someone check and make sure your brake lights are actually flashing. Try your turn signals. And the problem we had, the wipers, check those. Alright, so that definitely fixed the problem. Make sure your high beams work. Alright, so we're ready to put it back together. Alright, so once you get it screwed back on, I can show what I mean. There's actually like a little plastic channel right here, and all your wiring needs to run on that channel. And it seems self-explanatory, but I've seen people pinch off the wires in there. So, tuck the steering wheel piece back in here. Turn on our hazard switch. Alright, so once you get everything back in place, I want to test it out again. Make sure nothing's bound up. You'll see right here the plastic piece sets in this little casting right here. That's how you know that it's in the correct position. Now we can put the bottom back on and button everything up, and we will have a completed project. So there you go. If you have any questions, leave me a comment. See you next time.